Right, good afternoon, everyone. Today we're gonna talk about React, Webpack, and Drupal as an alternative way to create web applications. My name is Bartłomiej Czyż. I work in Hammersbach. This is a company that hires around 3,000 people all around the world, but there are around 100 or maybe 150 developers. So we provide field services for the big companies like HP, Lenovo, Acer, and many others. But as I mentioned, there are only around 150 developers. So we are using PHP and Java on the backend side, but on the front end we are using JavaScript, and in most cases it's React. Alright, so we're going to talk about pros and cons of splitting our application into actually 2 or maybe more applications. Then I'm going to tell you how to make your Drupal work as an API. I have to admit I'm not a Drupal specialist, but there is a way to make it very easily. Then we're going to move to the React itself. I'm going to explain what the React is and how easy it is to install it. Then we're going to talk about the Webpack. I don't know if some of you already know what the Webpack is. And we're going to finish with Create React App. So let's start with the pros. If you decide to split your application into the front end and back end, you're gonna no longer make your server render any HTML or any other content. So your CPU and RAM usage is gonna drop, or should drop very significantly, because you don't waste actually your time to render this stuff. And if you decide to do this, any of the clients and users are going to render it itself. If you are making an application that is very, very huge, you may find this solution quite good to optimize your load. The other advantage is that the view is totally separated from the whole application, so you can actually decide to let somebody else do this part of this application. If you are, I don't know, bored with working with Drupal themes, or if you just decided to not spend that much time on doing the front-end part, you can let somebody else to do it. But still, you are developing a Drupal application, so we can actually click through all the API. And if you or your client decides to go with native application, you can do it as well. So the Drupal is gonna only produce the JSON or XML, and the end applications like the web front application or the mobile version is gonna only consume this JSON, and you don't have to create as many applications separate and then somehow to synchronize them. So you have only one backend application, and you can have many front-end or native applications if you want to. Another big advantage is that this is extremely customizable, because if you are creating application from scratch in React or Angular or anything else, you are not limited by the Drupal. I know that some of you is going to hate me about this, because I did a couple of applications in Drupal, and it was always a really big pain to customize something in Drupal. I found this very actually that was a pain, and I tried to avoid this. And if you are making your application from scratch, you have no longer these limitations. But with all those advantages comes another thing, which is a disadvantage, I think. You have to maintain another application. This is a separate thing. You're going to have probably a separate repository for this, and you have more code to maintain. But I somehow live with it. This is not a big problem for me, but for some of you it might be a little bit confusing that you have one application, actually two applications for doing one thing. Alright, Drupal as an API. So in Drupal 8 you have already modules inside of the core, and those two that you need is RESTful Web Services and Serialization. So you probably know how to enable those modules. Then you're going to have to create your custom content type, create a view for this, and during creating a view you're going to have to click or select provide a REST export, and actually provide a REST path, and that's it. This is how you can easily make Drupal to work as an API. So it's gonna render only the JSON, no HTML is gonna be rendered. So this is the place where actually the magic happens, because you don't render the things that you don't need, actually. There are also many other modules or plugins. I'm not sure what are the names of those and if they are stable or not, but you can search for this. Yeah. Let's move to React. React is a very cool JavaScript library. This is one of the most popular front-end library I know. It's written in pure JavaScript, and the thing that is most cool about React is that it uses virtual DOM. I don't know if some of you knows what the virtual DOM is. Actually, it is what it says, because each time you modify something on the front end, you actually update the DOM. But in React, all the changes are computed in the memory, and after everything was updated, then there is a change set sent to the DOM. So everything's changed not that often, like for example in Angular, because Angular doesn't have, or jQuery doesn't have the virtual DOM. If you're rendering thousands or hundreds of thousands elements in your application, it might happen. Then you're gonna know that you're gonna see the difference between the virtual DOM and the native DOM. That's it. And React uses very cool JSX templates. I'm gonna tell you about it a little bit just later. Here are the libraries you might need. So the first thing you might need is Redux. Redux is a library to provide you state control, because you don't want to store all your information just inside the React. You're gonna need any libraries to control it. Apart from this, you're gonna need also React Redux and Redux Func. There are also a couple of others, including history, prop types. So what are the prop types? This is actually only for the development phase. So you decide which properties, which type of the properties should be passed to your components to make sure that you render valid things, that you don't receive any errors. Alright, here's I don't know if you see the code, but actually on the first code block we have just very simple component. I gave it name DrupalCamp 2K18, and all it does, it renders some div. You can see this funny thing that our render method returns HTML. This is actually not the HTML itself, because on the other code just below, you can see what is compiled to. Because the JSX is a template system, and it's being compiled to this JavaScript, as you see below. So rendering this div above is going to return actually React.create element, and the first argument is pipe that is going to be rendered. The second are the options, actually those are the properties, like class name, and the last element is the child of the element that we render. So you can save some space just using this JSX template. Alright, let's talk about the Webpack. What the Webpack is. This is a module bundler for JavaScript applications. And how it works. It makes a graph of every module inside your application. So it gathers the code, all the code you have, code and other files, and it puts it into one file that is minified, optimized, and so on and so forth. You can also decide should it be one file, or if you want to split some other libraries like the vendor, like some of the node modules. So you can put those all together into a separate file and maybe optimize it somehow. You can also make your application to lazy load, and you're going to have to configure. Something's wrong. So you're going to have to configure your Webpack to create many small files. So, for example, each part of the application is going to be in a separate file, so you can lazy load them. So you don't have to download, let's say, 2 or 5 megabytes of the code if you don't need it at the beginning. Alright, here is the basic configuration, and actually this is the only thing that you need to start working with Webpack. So you have the entry point, which points to your index file, and you have the output. So you can give it a name, and this is going to work out of the box. Here we have only one input file, because one entry file, because index.js imports other files, and those other files can import also others. So this is the graph that's going to be made to gather all the things, all the files that are needed. How to load the files actually. We're going to use loaders, and loaders are the functions to load specific files, and they convert them into ES modules. Yes, you might see or might not, but this presentation is going to be available for you later on. Here I have two loaders. The first one is for text files, and we use raw loader, and the second one is for JavaScript files. So we can exclude some directories, like node modules, like borrow components, and you can exclude actually more files if you want to. And we can also pass other options, so we can select some bubble presets, and so on. This is extremely configurable, and you can actually make your own loader. Here's the example how I used file loader. So as you can see, I have imported logo, which is a file, and then I in the render method I just put the source of this file other thing that we import in our file. So it's gonna take the whole file, take the path to the file, to the output file, and it's gonna be available under logo variable. So this is very easy way to let. Alright, here we also have plugins. The plugins are being run after the compilation was ended. One of the plugins that we're going to need is HTML Webpack plugin. So it generates HTML file and actually injects all the files that are being generated by our Webpack configuration.